What's up, everybody? Once again, this is Langston Clark, the founder and organizer of Entrepreneurial Appetite, a series of events dedicated to building community, promoting intellectualism, and supporting Black businesses. And today we have um, one of our very special episodes that will be part of our series dealing with Black History Month. And many of us aren't aware that there is a national organization called the National Brotherhood of Skiers that has been creating and fostering community amongst Black folk who are interested in skiing. And so today we have the opportunity to have a conversation with Henri Rivers, who is the president of the National Brotherhood of Skiers. And before we get into talking about the National Brotherhood of Skiers, I just want to ask Henry to provide us some of his background, who he is, how he got into skiing, and then how he became president and got involved with the National Brotherhood of Skiers. So, Henry, thank you for being with us today.
Well, thank you so much for asking us to come on your show. We look forward to it. As you said, I'm Henri Rivers. I am the 16th president of the National Brotherhood of Skiers. The National Brotherhood of Skiers was established in 1973, so this is marking our 50th golden anniversary of the organization. You asked, how did I get involved in skiing? My parents had bought a place up in the Catskills. I'm from New York. We lived in Queens, and my parents had bought a place up there. In the attic, I found a pair of skis. And, back in the 60s and the 70s during Thanksgiving, we'd have 3 or 4 feet of snow on the ground already.
Oh, yeah.
There is climate change that we have to deal with because the weather has changed dramatically. But back then, Thanksgiving, you had to make sure you were ready to go outside and play.
Yeah.
We didn't have TV, we didn't have internet. So we went outside and we enjoyed the outdoors. So I found these skis, didn't know how to ski, just put them on, they fit. And I pushed off and went down the hill, and it was a thrill. It was such an exciting, invigorating, exhilarating feeling that I said, wow, I got to figure this out. I got to learn how to ski. None of my friends skied. Nobody in the town I was in skied. And I was in a town there was 126 people in the town. Of that, 123 were white. All right. So there were three of us there that were Black. And no one skied in the town. And we were only 6 miles away from a mountain. I just kept trying. I'd hike up the hill, I'd ski down, I'd fall. I'd hike up the hill, I'd ski down, I'd fall. And eventually, I found a way to turn the ski. And I was able not to fall. And I was able to ski down the whole hill, and I really enjoyed it. So I just kept going on it. And then finally I moved from hiking up the hill to getting on the rope tow and getting on the chairlift and skiing at a local hill. And what I would do is I would follow behind all the white kids that were well off, that were taking lessons, that were in training programs, race training programs. And I'd follow behind them and try to figure out how to turn the ski. By the time I was 14, I tried out for the high school ski team, and they have 15 slots. I made number 15. I made the team. I was the last kid to make it, but I made it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the turning point of my skiing. If I hadn't made the ski team, I probably would have got disenfranchised. I might have, got disinterested, but I didn't. I made the team. So now was a chance to ski with kids that were much better skiers than me, learn how to ski better, and just keep at it. So that got me, through. By the middle of the season, I probably moved up to about 11 or 10 on the team. So I was trying hard, but then I went to college and I didn't ski. After I got out of college, I skied a few times, but after that I said, I really gotta get this together and do it well. So my first job, I said, I'm going to save up enough money so I can go out west, Because mind you, go back a little bit, when I was in
Mm,
high school, the kids during Christmas break would all go to Europe and out west, spend 2 weeks skiing in the Alps. And I was at my local hill, 6 miles away, and I was there every day skiing, trying to get better. Um, so I told myself, when I get enough money, these are young kids' aspirations. I said, when I get enough money, I'm going out west and I'm gonna go to Colorado and learn how and really ski.
mm,
So I did. In 1983, I went out west and I went to Breckenridge. That's the first ski area I ever went to out west. And I'm telling you, it was an amazing sight. The mountains were huge. The runs were 10 times as long as the runs here in New York. And it was a breathtaking, eye-opening experience. And that's how I really got into skiing. And in '83, when I went out west, that solidified it for me. There was no better outside adventure, outside fix or thrill that was more than skiing to me. And that's how I got on my road to skiing. I've been skiing for 50 years now.
wow. Talk about. So I grew up north. I was actually born in Buffalo. I went to high school in New Jersey though, and I went to like if you my high school was diverse, but it was white. You know what I mean? Like we had some Asian kids, we had Latino kids, Latina kids, we had black kids, we had black kids from the Caribbean, like from Africa, immigrants. We had immigrant kids who came from Europe, but it was still a white school. And so what that afforded us was a number of different sports, right? So we had football, we had basketball, we had track, but then we also had diving. We also had swimming. We also had hockey. We also had field hockey. We also had like boys and girls lacrosse. We had a whole range of sports, but we didn't have skiing, at least as far as I know. So talk a little bit about because for many of the people who are listening, it's almost unheard of to have a high school that has a skiing program. So could you talk a little bit more about what that was like? Were you the only black kid on a ski team? And how did you adjust to that?
Sure. I went to a predominantly white school in the Catskills. And it was called Ontario Central High School. Now we had over 2,000 kids in the school. It served a large community, and there were probably 100 black kids in the school of
Mm,
2,000.
yeah.
There were no at the time. I wasn't the first black kid on the ski team. There was a guy before me. His name was Lionel Heron. Lionel Heron made the team. He was about 4 or 5 years older than me. He had made the team previous. But during my time, I was the second black kid on the team in the team's history. You know, that school, we had, even though it was a public school in the Catskills, it was in Ulster County. It had some of the best athletic programs you can imagine. We had baseball, we had football, we had soccer. A lot of the girls' athletic teams were there. They had soccer, track, basketball, you name it. But we didn't have swimming. I wish they did. But we also had skiing, and skiing was a big thing in our area. We had three mountains actually: Bel Air Mountain, Hunter Mountain, Windham Mountain, and a little hill where I learned how to ski was Phoenicia Ski Center. So we were dominant in the council, in the league, as far as skiing. We won a lot of the athletic championships in skiing. A lot of the donors and supporters of the school supported the ski team.
Mm,
So we traveled all over the Catskills, and competed. And, so it was a little different. It wasn't like when I left there, I went back to Long Island to a almost completely black community where there were no white kids in my school.
mm,
They had no idea what skiing was. I remember coming down there and having to do a public speaking speech. You had to do your speech or your 5 minute speech, and I did it on skiing. I
yeah.
brought the skis in. I showed all the kids in the classroom, And my 5-minute speech lasted 25 minutes because they were so involved and they were so, their eyes were open because they had really never heard of skiing. I mean, they heard of it, but they had never seen it. They'd never seen a ski. They had no idea that someone could be that passionate about it. And they sat there for 25 minutes and listened to me speak about skiing. So that was a big difference between being in a community far away from the environment or the mountains to a community that was right there in the mountains. So my high school was, we skied every day. After school, we skied and we practiced. Then the school I went to in Long Island was 3 hours from a mountain. You couldn't see mountains on your horizon, so it wasn't in your view. It wasn't something that you thought of. But when I lived upstate New York, the mountain was right there. You look out the window in your classroom and you saw the mountains, you saw the snow, and you're like, oh, I can't wait to get out there and practice. So, there are huge disparities. And that's one of the things that they talk about in the industry is proximity or geographic location to the mountains. That is a hindrance for a lot of communities of color in the urban environments that can't get to the mountains.
Yeah. So you talked about graduating college and then wanting to get west and get to Colorado. Is your transition from college to Colorado, is that how you first started to get involved with the National Brotherhood? So how did you become a brother in the National Brotherhood?
Yeah. I had no idea back in the 80s what the NBS was. I didn't know it was an organization. I was just a ski enthusiast. I was a skier through and through, and I just pursued skiing on my own. So even when I was going out west, I really rarely came across any people of color. I don't think I came across anyone of color until 1992, and that was a trip I took out to Lake Tahoe. I saw, and now I understand it was a club associated with the National Brotherhood of Skiers. I hadn't ever skied with anyone else Black except Lionel Herring, who I didn't ski with, but I got to follow and watch him ski because this brother was a phenomenal skier. He was a great skier, and I just looked at him like, wow. He was like about 6'3", about 250 pounds, and the brother could do a backflip on his skis.
Oh, wow.
And this is in the late 60s, early 70s, and I was just amazed. So I was, in 1995, I was on the beach in Negril, Jamaica, reading a ski magazine, and a woman walked by me and says, oh, do you ski? And I laughed, I chuckled to myself. I was like, here I am, 90 degrees outside, reading the ski magazine. Yeah, I ski. She goes, well, why don't you join the National Brotherhood of Skiers and come ski with us? And I said, really? I said, there's an organization? She said, yeah. So they gave me information, and I met up with them. The first trip I went on with the National Brotherhood of Skiers was in Innsbruck, Austria. So I flew, and I had never been to Europe. Never been to Europe. This is 1996. So I'm all in. I said, wow, this is something else. So bought it. I signed up for the trip. I get over to Europe, and I see about 400 or 500 Black folks all gathered to ski. So I was amazed. I was like, wow, this is unbelievable. And then half of them skied well. That was another shock because you always get this picture of Black people falling down the hill. They can't ski, they're fumbling and they're no good at it. That picture does not exist. Okay, that's made up. Yeah. Black people can ski, and they can ski well.
Yeah.
So when I got to ski with all these brothers and sisters, it was just like, wow. And that was 1996. This is 2023, and I haven't missed a summit since. All right, from the first day I was introduced to the organization, I've never missed a summit. So I get in with all these people that can ski, that look like me, and we're having a blast. And the thing that they do better than any other white ski organization is they can throw the best party ever. All right, so So that sort of cinched it for me. I was like, okay. I then met the people that invited me out there. We organized and we formed the first Caribbean ski club, and that was out of Negril, Jamaica. I was elected president. After that, I started skiing with the National Brotherhood of Skiers all over. The next summit was probably Vail, and I got to see the team that they were sponsoring and supporting, and what was part of the mission of the organization. And these kids were all good skiers. It was great. I said, you know what? I want to get involved. So after being the president, I moved on to become the regional competition director. I was in the Midwest region. We have 4 regions within the National Brotherhood of Skiers, and I'll explain more on that. But I became the competition director for the region. And soon after that, I became the Olympic Scholarship Fund Administrator, which is the person that allocates or actually reviews and looks for talented athletes of color that we can support towards the mission of the NBS. So after the OSF administrator, I became the national competition director, which oversaw the whole country. Then I became the executive vice president of the organization. And 2 years after that, I became the president of the organization. So what is the National Brotherhood of Skiers? The National Brotherhood of Skiers is an organization that was formed in 1973. Our mission is to identify, develop, and support athletes of color that are going to win international and Olympic competitions representing the United States, and to increase participation in winter sports. So that is the mission of the organization. Our summit, which we hold once a year, all over the place. We've had a summit in Lake Placid. We've had them in Lake Tahoe. And we usually have them in Colorado and Utah. And you know why? Because that's where the snow is, a lot of the snow. But, we've had them everywhere, you can imagine. That event is the fundraiser that supports the mission of the organization. And that mission, now we have 23 athletes on the Olympic Scholarship Fund team. Out of the 23 athletes, we probably have 4 snowboarders, a couple of free skiers, mogul skiers, alpine skiers, ski across competitors. So we've broadened our scope, and we broadened our athletes from just racers, alpine, downhill, GS, and slalom racers, to several disciplines within skiing. We wanna approach this as broad as we can and bring in as many athletes of color as we can to get to the ultimate, which is having an athlete of color compete on the U.S. ski team in the Olympics. So that's the goal. That's what we've been doing. Mind you, we're 50 years old, and this is a volunteer organization. All right. So it's all done by people that donate their time freely. They dedicate their life and work to the organization to make it successful. Now, how did the organization start? It didn't start out with this mission of getting a Black athlete to the Olympics in winter sports. It started out with 2 men, Art Clay and Ben Finley. These 2 gentlemen met. They didn't realize that there were more than their club, more than their Black ski club in existence. When they found out that there were 13 clubs across the United States that enjoyed the same sport, they got together and they called it a gathering in Aspen in 1973. And that just snowballed. That's how it started. Our founders, Art and Ben, probably had no idea how huge this was going to be. But they were the ones that organized this. They were the ones that started the ball rolling, and they're the ones that get all the credit for founding this amazing organization.
Man. So you touched on a few things that I wanted to talk about, and in particular, that piece about like focusing on younger folks and creating that pipeline to the Olympics. And then you also provided some of the history of NBS. Can you give us sort of like a synopsis of how it got to like what the original mission was? And I don't think you all have deviated that. It's like how you all got to the point where we're thinking about like we want an Olympic caliber athlete from a Black community to represent the United States. So I guess what I'm asking is, can you give us a feel for like what it was like in the beginning and how things have evolved into what they are now?
Well, you think about that. It's all the same. It's all relative.
Mm,
You've got a bunch of folks, a bunch of, and mind you, the people that make up the NBS are um, mostly college and masters and secondary degree individuals. So the party was great. You know, they got to the mountain, they partied, and they had fun. You know, but after a while, you're like, well, this is good, and this is going to continue. It's you know, they saw it grabbing hold and transforming, and they said, well, we got all these people involved.
mm,
What can we party and have a purpose to the party?
mm,
You know, so that's where they decided to come up with a mission and a direction for the organization. You know, because it's one thing that to just ski and have a party and then go home and wait another 51 weeks and do it again. You know, but they felt it was necessary to put a goal out there for this organization, and that's how the mission was born.
mm,
You know, they because they were seeing so much talent on the mountain, and they said, "Well, hey, you know, let's see if we can get our own Olympian, you know, and let's promote that. Let's work on funding that and financing the training that's required to get to that level of elite athleticism."
yeah.
So that's where the mission came from.
Mm,
And probably in the early 80s, the Olympic Scholarship Fund was identified and developed and came to be. That is that was important in building the amount of athletes and the level of interest that we're at now.
yeah.
So, as I stated before, what the mission of the organization is, you know, you've got to understand that now that mission, we've been here. A lot of people don't realize that we've already fulfilled the mission.
Mm,
If you look at it, to identify, develop, and support athletes of color that are going to win international and Olympic competitions representing the United States. So that would encompass some of our athletes. We had one of our athletes, Andre Horton. He won a Europa Cup race in Europe back in maybe 2000. Don't quote me on the date, but it's 1999, 2000, around that time. He had won a Europa Cup competition. So there,
yeah.
we've attained a goal. Um, you know, we've had several of our athletes, Bonnie St. John, Ralph Green. They both competed on the Paralympic level and did extremely well. Bonnie medaled. Ralph was in 2 or 3 Olympics. So we've attained our mission on that end.
Mm,
Um, then we had in 2010, the Vancouver Olympics, Errol Kerr. Errol Kerr was one of our athletes that trained with the NBS for years. He did not qualify for the U.S. ski team. So he, being of Jamaican descent, he represented Jamaica in the 2010
yeah.
Vancouver Olympics. And he came in 9th in ski across. And to just make it to the Olympics is a feat unto itself.
Absolutely.
To place ninth out of all those young men that were competing is a phenomenal achievement. So the MBS has attained its mission, but what we're trying to do is actually see one of our athletes on a podium. We'd love to see that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so 2026, in Italy, you're going to see a lot of MBS members there because we have a couple of athletes right now that are very close to making the U.S. team.
Yeah.
We have a couple. Brian Rice is one on the snowboard side. Ava Keenan, she's young and she might not be. Her parents might not want her to compete in 2026, but she's a 13-year-old mogul skier, phenomenal mogul skier that would be 16 in 2026. So, or 17. So she might, if she qualifies, she's going to do very well.
Yeah.
She's going to do very well. And we have a couple of other athletes that are up and coming. LJ Enriquez, Bronson Culver. We've got quite a few out there. What we're trying to do is just support them, give them scholarships so that they can continue to train and compete and hopefully make the U.S. team.
Yeah. You said a lot of things that got me interested now. So I want to talk about two things. One,
Okay.
you mentioned like all these different types of skiing. I have no idea what they are. So if you could break down those different types of skiing that you all support within the National Brotherhood, and then I want to hear about these Paralympic skiers, because that's of interest to me. My background is actually in adapted physical activity, and so that like I was surprised to hear that, and so like I'm interested in how NBS as a Black community supports Black folks with disabilities skiing and things like that too.
Sure. We have. I like Ralph a lot. Ralph is from Brooklyn. I was in Brooklyn for 30 years of my life. Ralph was a one-legged skier, awesome skier. If you look at his leg, his one leg was probably bigger than both of our legs put together. He was massive and he could just tear up a course. So he competed in the Paralympic level. Bonnie St. John, I didn't know her personally. I don't know her personally, but she is on the lecture circuit. She is a phenomenal person. And she actually, I believe she won bronze at the Olympics that she competed in. She was a single leg skier. And her big quote was like, it's not if you fall down, it's how quick you get up. Because she had fallen and got up and went on to medal. Wow. Don't quote me on the bronze. I don't recall which one she won, but she did medal in the Olympics.
Yeah.
And again, as I said, just getting to the Olympics is phenomenal. All right, to medal in the Olympics, that's amazing.
And I also don't want to minimize like the level of competition that exists in the Paralympics.
Let me tell you something. I wouldn't beat Ralph. All right. I've skied with him. We've skied moguls and moguls are the bumps that you see on the snow.
Yeah.
All right. So we're just having a leisure day skiing and we go through the bumps and he just crushes it, and here I am with two legs trying to keep up. And so, to compete, when people say, oh, that's the Paralympics, don't get it wrong. All right. These are amazing athletes that are really just shy of being able-bodied athletes. They are elite athletes.
Yeah.
They train for this. This is their life, and they're excellent. Then we had, Errol. Errol Kerr was an able-bodied Olympian that he should have made the U.S. ski team. He was that good. There was probably someone that got in there a little bit ahead of him. I'm not naming any names, but Errol came in ninth. Now, that's an amazing feat, to compete at such an elite level and to be in the top 10, it's amazing. So, my hat off to all of them. They're outstanding individuals. They're outstanding athletes. Now, what we do, the MBS, we're in the process now of changing our name.
Mm.
The president just voted on it back in October. So we will be going forward as the National Brotherhood of Snow Sports. All right. And why did we do that? Because we're encompassing every discipline in snow sports, whether it's alpine skiing, snowboarding, snowboard cross, skier cross, mogul skiing, free skiing. All of that makes up winter sports, and there are more disciplines out there, and we do not want to um, exclude any of those disciplines
Yeah.
from the National Brotherhood of Skiers. That's why we changed our name to Snow Sports.
Yeah.
All right, so
So
that will be, go ahead.
no, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm
So
listening.
that will be in place very soon. We're just waiting for all the uh, all the paperwork to be finalized, and then we will be the National Brotherhood of Snow Sports.
Yeah. So you said you describe it's mogul or mobile?
Mogul, Mogul.
So you mentioned what mogul is. It's the bumps, right? I've
Right.
seen that. So what are the other types? Like what's alpine skiing?
Okay,
You
so
mentioned
alpine skiing is the
snowboarding.
one that you see. The one that's on TV the most,
Mm-hmm.
well, used to be the most, is alpine skiing. That's where the skier comes down the hill, he comes down, and he goes around these gates, these flags that
Yeah,
you see.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, so some are short distance apart. That would be your slalom skiing.
Mm,
Some are slightly longer, spaced apart, your GS or giant slalom skiing. And then some are very wide apart. That would be your super giant slalom and your downhill. So that makes up that aspect of it. The mogul I told you about. Free skiing, that's you got big mountain skiing where the guys are coming off of these huge mountain peaks and they're skiing in terrain that it's not easily accessible,
mm-hmm.
and they do all sorts of tricks and flips and big wide arcing turns, and they're based on a scoring system where the judges score you on all sorts of things: finesse, speed, creativity, all these different things that come into play. So that's your big mountain skiing. You've got guys that are in the half pipe, your snowboarders. They're in the half pipe doing tricks, doing big air, park and pipe. There are so many different disciplines right now. It's hard for me to describe them all, and
Yeah.
I am not totally versed in all of them. I have an alpine background.
Mm,
Then there's ski across, which takes in speed, terrain, jumps, all sorts of things like that, and that's for your really brave, strong, super skiers. Because that's a tough event as well.
yeah. Okay. So we got the glossary on snow sports right here from Henry. So any of you who are listening who are interested in skiing or getting your kids involved in skiing, like that should be a tremendous resource as well as MBS. You talked to us about the mission and vision of MBS, and I noticed in addition to the mission and vision on the website that there's this certification that MBS just got, and it's called the PSIA Certified Traveling Ski School. Like what is that, and why is that a significant milestone for MBS?
Well, I'm glad you bring that up because it is not only significant, it is not only a milestone, it is the first ever of its kind. All right. PSIA stands for Professional Ski Instructors of America. Right now, as of last year, that is all your certified instructors across the country. They had 32,000 instructors. Right at this time, they don't have the demographics or they don't have the numbers on a breakdown on ethnicity of those instructors, but there has never been a Black certified ski school ever.
Mm.
Okay, so the NBS partnered with the Professional Ski Instructors of America. We met with them, we negotiated with them, and we established ourselves as a traveling snow sports instruction school.
Mm.
So that means that our certified instructors, which we have right now, we have about 48 certified ski instructors, but there are probably closer to 150 certified ski instructors across the United States,
Yeah.
but 48 of them are identified within our snow sports school.
Wow.
Again, I can't emphasize enough how groundbreaking that is. There's never been a black ski, a snow sports school in the country ever.
Yeah.
The National Brotherhood Snow Sports has established that as of October of 2020. And we are going strong. We're really just getting off the ground with that. But it is something that, you're a young man. So maybe in another 40 years, you're going to be talking about this and you're going to be looking back and saying, wow, I understand uh, how important the formation of this club was, because there's going to be more. All right. But there has never been one. They've got, like I said, last year they had 32,000 instructors across the country, and only 100, 150 are black. Only 2 are alpine examiners. Only 2 are snowboard examiners. That's 4 examiners in the whole country,
Mm.
Out of 32,000 instructors. So we're working with PSIA to build on that, to create a pathway to identify and get more Black instructors and instructors of color to the level of examiner. Examiner is above a fully certified instructor.
Yeah.
That's the guy or the girl or the individual that will see if you have what it takes to meet the next level of certification.
Mm.
They're your clinicians. They're the ones that check off the box and say he, she, or whomever has attained that level. And we've only got 4, 2 as snowboarders and 2 as skiers. So that is something that has to be addressed.
Yeah.
And we're going to address that.
I think it's great that you bring that up, because someone who is been identified as a millennial, I think I wrestle with this idea of intradiversity within Black communities as it pertains to age, right? And so, in order for more of more Black folk to get those certifications and whatnot, there has to be an intentional mindset of baton passing training and uplifting those folks who are right behind you in the pipeline. So, talk about how NBS promotes or is getting like the next generation or the generation like right behind you prepared to fill those spots in those positions and expand.
We're probably 50 to 60% of our membership is 45 years old and older.
Mm.
Okay. And that's not, there's nothing that NBS has done bad, because that's the same numbers that we see in the ski industry across the board. The
Wow.
ski industry is aging out, white
Yeah.
or black.
Yeah.
So we do need to address, how do we bring in the next members, the 25 to 40-year-old members? How do we attract them? How do we get them into the sport? There are plenty of issues: monetary, geography, ski pedigree. What
Mm.
is ski pedigree?
Yeah.
Ski pedigree is growing up in a family of skiers. All right, families that always skied, families that own a home up at a ski area. They live in an urban environment, but every Friday they pack up and they go skiing up at the White Country Club, the White
Right.
Country Ski Club.
Yeah.
That's what I call ski pedigree.
Mm.
We don't have that in our communities so much, but that's growing.
Yeah.
All right. We're not directing our attentions and our marketing to that 25 to 40-year-old demographic, that is changing. We're focusing on that. We need to bring in young blood into this sport, not just from a Black perspective, but from the longevity of the ski industry. The ski industry has to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And the ski industry is wrestling with that, and they understand, they realize that they have a huge untapped market in the underrepresented communities, in the Black and people of color communities. 87% of the people that ski are white. You figure that other 13% that they didn't get probably don't want to ski. Okay, so they need to tap into the underrepresented communities. The Black community, it makes up 2 to 8% of the ski industry. That's nothing. So that is a huge resource that they can tap into. Same thing goes for Asians, Latinx, and I don't want to say anyone's name wrong in the LGBTQ community, but all of those that I just mentioned are underrepresented. And it's a huge area for the ski industry to take it to market to, and to bring them into the industry. And bringing them into the industry, understand, I'm just checking my time here. Being in the ski industry, understand, the MBS, Henri Rivers, Langston Clark, we don't care how many lift tickets the ski industry sells to people of color or Black people. That really doesn't matter to me. I'm not about promoting how much money they're going to make. There's this huge industry is going to make. What I want to see, they want to partner with us and become inclusive, and I'm happy for that, and that's what we want. But inclusion to me is to see Black CEOs of ski resorts. Okay, inclusion to me is to see vice presidents of human resources, of snow operations, of hospitality. They say, how do we get more people of color to want to come to our resort? I can hire lift attendants, I can hire parking attendants, I can hire bus boys, I can hire waiters. That doesn't work. You understand, you do need to do that, but you need to hire up here. You've got to hire management on down, CEOs on down. If you do that, that is going to perpetuate what you want to do from the bottom up. So you can't have one without the other. So when I talk of inclusion, when the Black community and the underrepresented communities talk about inclusion, it's about inclusion at every level. And I am fighting for, and I want to see a Black CEO of a resort. And right now we have a couple of resorts that are actively hiring. They're hiring VPs of human resources. They're hiring VPs of marketing. But we need to keep pushing that, because this is, you're breaking into an industry that doesn't look anything like you.
That's right.
You're breaking into an industry that sometimes you don't even understand their jargon or what they're talking. It seems you're sitting in there and you're like, okay, that's what he said, but what does he mean? So turnover is going to be very high initially. But once we start getting those individuals in those positions that stick it out, then it starts to take hold and it starts to grow. And that's what we need to get to. So that is what inclusion is for me. Inclusion is not how many season passes they sell to Black people. It's not how many Black people. That's not what I want to see. I would love to see Black people on the Hill, but I want to see Black people up in that office that are managing that Hill. And if I come into a resort and I'm walking into the lobby and everything, and I see a person that I know is higher management that looks like me, I'm going to come back. Why wouldn't I want to come back? I said, okay, This is inviting.
Yeah.
This is okay. But if I walk into a vanilla environment, 100%, I go because I like the sport, but I'm not turned on by what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
I'm not that come back and hang out with us again. I'm not feeling that, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I ski because I love skiing, so I really don't even see all the other parts of that, the vanilla scope. I don't see that because I'm coming to ski. But if you want to attract new people to this sport, if you want to attract new people of color to this sport, they've got to feel invited, they've got to
Yeah.
feel welcome.
Yeah.
And to feel welcome, I need to see people that look like me all over the resort.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that that gets to this question about skiing and Black culture. And before we started recording, I told you, and I'm gonna give you the whole story. So my church used to take a Black church in New Jersey, First Baptist Church in Lincoln Gardens in Somerset, New Jersey, right? Used to take all these Black kids to the mountains in Pennsylvania, and we would have a ski weekend, and we'd be the only Black folk up there. It would literally be like over 100 Black kids up there, plus the Sunday school teachers and stuff like that. And so like that was my excuse to get a big bubble jacket, get the big Usher snow goggles, turn them to the side like that, like back in 98, 97. And so like for a moment in time, literally there was like 3 years where Black fashion and skiing intersected. And I think your point about Black folks being involved on the slopes in a number of ways deals with like Black culture and skiing. So how do you see a merging of Black folks culturally um, being invited or being excited or seeing themselves on the slopes?
Before I was in NBS, I would see in downtown Brooklyn,
Mm.
I would see young Black brothers and sisters walking around sporting North Face jackets, $400-$500 jackets.
Yep.
And I knew looking at them, they had never skied a day in their life.
Yep.
I remember the videos of the kids with the goggles on the side of their head. I remember all that. And I don't know how they got turned on to that, but that was a missed opportunity
It was.
because back then you had this community that was buying your products. They were buying all of your gear, but yet had no idea what the gear was for. I'm telling you, I remember seeing some little gang, and I don't know if they were gang members, but they looked like they were gang members, wearing such expensive gear that had a purpose on a ski hill. It didn't have a purpose on Fulton Street. All
Yeah.
right, but they had it. Um, they missed their opportunity then,
Yeah.
because if they had marketed that right, they could have had all these kids up on a hill and learning a sport that once you learned it, I'm telling you, you're gonna be pursuing for the rest of your life trying to
Yeah.
perfect it.
Yeah.
So we missed a great opportunity, but that doesn't mean that that's an opportunity that we can't learn from and work on it to make it happen again.
Yeah. Yeah. And so as I stated at the beginning, um, that this episode is being recorded for a special series for Black History Month. And as we close, this will be the last question. I want to know what books have you read or that you are currently reading that have inspired you in your journey, whether that be in skiing, whether that being just the president as a leader of MBS. What are some of the things that have kept you going through your journey?
You know, I've read I've read a lot of books. I love reading. James Baldwin, I constantly read. He's always on my rewind bookshelf. I've read since 2020. I changed my focus a little bit, and I read a lot more on inclusion, on DEI, a lot of it because I wanted to understand how to present being Black in a completely white environment, completely white industry, to white people and getting it across that I'm not here to attack you, but I'm here to let you know where you're short. I'm here to let you know what you're not doing right. And so I read and I can White Fragility comes to mind quickly because that was one of the first ones I read so that I could present my opinions in a way that would not feel offensive to white people. And don't get me wrong, I really don't care, but I want to make sure they hear me in a way that they will respond the way I need them to respond.
Yeah.
All right. So it wasn't like I need to read this because I don't want to step on their toes. That's not it. I want to read this so I know how they perceive what I'm telling them.
Yeah.
How do I get across there's more than one way to win.
That's right.
There's always more than one way to win. So you need to understand, I needed to understand how they're perceiving these things. How do I explain the little microaggressions that they do all the time that they don't know? You see, I'm dressed in my ski gear. I just came off the mountain to talk to you.
Yeah.
Just today, it doesn't really affect me because I know where it's coming from. And don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean it's correct. But the guy says, "Oh, I thought you were such and such. I saw you from the back. I thought you were oh, that's the other black guy."
Yeah.
So it doesn't hurt me because I'm so far above that,
Yeah.
because they don't understand. So we need to be able to get our point across so that they can understand that some of their points are wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm here to help them get to the right track.
Yeah.
I can't even tell you. This past year I probably read 20 books.
That's good.
And I have to point out my man Darius Myers. He's writing just it's a novel that I can relax and I don't have to think about everything. But he's doing something on the name of his series, he's up to 4 books. It's Black Camelot. That is, yeah. Darius and I went to high school together. And so that book, I get to read that to let my mind calm down. Because after you're reading so many of these books on white supremacy, on white privilege, it gets to you after a while.
It is
so you have to take a break from it. And one other author that, if anyone really wants to know about the National Brotherhood of Skiers, they should read Naomi Bryson. Okay, she's a past president of the NBS. She's written 2 books on the history of Black people on snow through the organization National Brotherhood of Snow Sports. So she's good to know. But we have to, as a person, you have to keep your mind active, and that's why I read. So there are so many books out there to read. I see you have From Here to Equality on your shelf. That's a good book.
Yeah.
All right. Ibram, oh God, I can't. Kendi.
Yeah, he changed his name. Ibram X. Kendi. Yeah, he's got a
Right.
whole bunch of good books.
I've read 3 of his books that are great.
Did you read Stamped from the beginning?
Of course I did.
I haven't finished it yet. But
now it's a long read.
It's long.
It's a long read, but it's a written book,
yes.
and you have to read the whole thing.
Yes.
So what I do every morning, I get up, I dedicate 2 hours, and I read. And I get up early. I get up at 3 a.m. So at 3 a.m. I'm reading till 5, and then I wake up everybody else in my house. But Ibram has written some great stuff. There's a whole lot of other books out there, I'm sorry that I'm falling short on a lot of the authors. But let's see. Stephen Rogers, letters to my white colleagues and
I
friends.
had him on the show. He was
Okay.
on the show. He's good, man.
Okay.
Yeah, he's
So
good.
that was a good book. And that one, whites can understand what's necessary. You know, I am 100% behind reparations. Okay, let's make sure we understand that.
Yeah.
Because there's no way that we could ever level the playing field without it.
Yeah.
And even with it, make sure you understand it's not really going to level everything.
Yeah.
You know,
True.
you can't when one part of our society owns everything.
Everything.
And you own nothing.
Yeah.
How does that? It doesn't work.
A check
Even with the reparations
yeah.
that'll get here, and it's still you got miles to go.
Yeah.
So reparations would just get us to a point where we can break down the foundation of racism. Racism, you're young. You won't. I did not realize the full power and the full extent of racism until I was probably 30-something years old.
That's me.
Okay?
That's me.
And the reason why is because as a young person growing up, you would never think that someone would spend their whole life developing a plan on how to keep someone else down. You know, why would I put all that energy into keeping my foot on somebody else's neck? You know? Okay, that's my next one coming up. I'm sorry. But you know, that's where I'm at. And please, everyone, just read. Yeah. There is so much to learn out there, and it will only help you figure out who you are. Yeah. It'll help you get an idea on what it is, what your purpose is. We all have a purpose. We all do, you know, and we'll all get there. Yeah. You know, so I continue to read and I love reading.
Yeah. Henri, thank you. One day, I promise you, I will see you on the slopes. Me and my wife gonna come to one of these things and be up there with. We may not be the best ones up there, but we're gonna see you up there one day. So
I've been skiing 50 years and I'm nowhere near the best. Nowhere near. I just love skiing.
Yeah. I'm gonna get up there. I'm gonna make my pizza and stop. That's all I know how to do. but I'm not afraid to go up there. So thank you.
Well, you get up there, you get yourself a black instructor, someone that looks just like you.
Yes.
That will teach you everything.
That's what I want. That's what I want. Henri, thank you again. I appreciate you, and you stay safe up there on the slopes.
We will. Thank you for having us, Langston.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye.